syrup. Hey, everybody. It is the Maple Syrup Show. And hey, Kat, does George have this problem where, like, he can't let his fingernails grow?
No?
Oh, see, so I'm asking you that because George also grapples. And so I can never
I
let
was
my
like, he
fingernails.
doesn't play the ukulele. Why would you ask me that? But of
No,
course,
because
now I
for
understand.
ukulele, you actually want long, strong fingernails. But for jujitsu, you want no fingernails.
No, that's why I still keep mine short after years of taekwondo as well. Like
Yeah.
I and typing. But I think the main reason is typing.
What about you, LaMarcus? Do you have long nails or short nails?
Man, I'll go like a while and grow them until somebody says something about it. Then I'll start biting them off.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. We have LaMarcus Shepard here today. Welcome, LaMarcus. How are you doing?
Pretty good. How about you guys?
Doing great. Where are you from? Actually, I don't even know.
I'm from Dallas, Texas, but currently out here in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Oh, okay. That's really cool. And what brings you to Little Rock?
Grandma, she can't be on her own, so I'm just out here.
That's so sweet. That's very nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, man. So we're here today, everybody, with LaMarcus, and we're going to talk about TCGs, also known as trading card games. And so that's what we're going to do today. LaMarcus actually has a whole kind of segment that he's going to do about getting started in designing. But before we get there, we're going to talk about LaMarcus himself, the man, the myth, the legend, LaMarcus Shepard. So, LaMarcus, how did you get into gaming? What is it about gaming that makes you want to be part of the community? And so much so that you started to like design games and make content around it.
Okay, so I always loved games. I always loved the Candylands, all the card games, all that good stuff in elementary. Always real fun. I'm an only kid, so I would always treasure the time I could get with some more people and play some games. Always the best thing to do. So I guess pretty much I had a main core group of friends. We would always play cards and good old Monopoly and everything, but not too much from that regular stuff or whatever. But then pretty much Pokemon came out. I'll never forget, I was in the 10th grade. And then like I guess like there was no school that day. And then my friends were like, I moved from my one neighborhood, and then like my friends from my old neighborhood, they walked all the way to my new neighborhood from Garland to Rowlett. That was like 30-minute walk. And then they walked all the way there one morning. I don't even think they told me, but then they showed up. Then we walked all the way back to Garland. That was like an hour walk. Then we got the Pokemon starter sets at Kmart in 10th grade. What was that, like 2000, the year 2000? Then we came back and played Pokemon. It was so magical. I got the Machamp deck. Blew my mind. And and then ever since then, like, I've been about it, but I really stopped playing like TCGs, whatever. Like that was the first one I played, and then that was really like the only one I played for like the longest. But so pretty much 2000 till I'll probably say like 2004 or 5 or something. That's the last time we played. Probably 2004 or something. But didn't play anything ever since then or whatever. But then we got big into poker. So like one day, like I'm sure y'all remember the World Poker Tour craze and everything.
Like when it was on television, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was big. And then like guys like Nelly and everything were on TV playing poker. It was crazy. But got into poker, and then like I used to hit all the dive bars where they played poker. And then my friend, my buddy, he even made like we had an amateur poker league out in Dallas. He made a nice
That's awesome.
Amateur, oh yeah, he made a nice amateur poker league song. But anyway, one night playing poker, they were playing Bang at the
the card
poker,
game. Yeah.
Bang the card game. And then that kind of was like the precursor to me going board game crazy. So I played the Bang, and then I eventually bought Bang and then played that a little bit. But then I really didn't know about the whole world or everything. And then just eventually I was at this place. I met a new friend. He had Citadels card game for Fantasy Flight. Love that game. like I say, like in my intro video, the variable player powers are crazy. The fantasy flight butterscotch tokens are crazy. And then take a card and do a thing and try to get the most points is just crazy. But pretty much since then, I just once I found that, bought that, went board game crazy, got a million games now. So
There you go. You're one of the first persons who didn't cite Catan as their gateway into gaming.
Mm.
So that's cool. You win something. I don't know what, but you win something for not naming Catan. Bang is definitely one of those games that kind of captures your imagination too, because it's like so much done in so little space of time, right?
and
I,
so relatable because
Yeah,
it's playing cards, kind of like
yeah.
I've got to ask though, when you were playing poker, were you playing Texas Hold'em in Texas?
Texas Hold'em in Texas. Yeah.
Okay, because that's kind of cool for me. Like, you know, I hear that as a series of words, and then I'm like, no, it's actually about a place, and you were in it. Ooh,
Oh,
that's fun. Because
sometimes actually like an outlaw with guns and everything out and everything. It's crazy. Even played some Omaha in Texas as well. Actually, yeah. Even played some Omaha in Texas. Yeah.
I've only played a small amount of poker. I'm not very good at it. I have a terrible poker face. So when I get even slightly excited, everyone knows I've got a good hand, and that doesn't necessarily mean I've got a good hand because I forget what the good hands are. I'm just like, oh, I like the way this one looks, and it could be like 2 2s.
Yeah.
That's 4 2s.
Jessica
Me too. I
Andrews.
got the real big eyes, so
Oh, when you get a good
bill.
hand,
You gotta wear the shades. Now that I think about it,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta get the Unabomber look. Jessica Andrews said, so it would just be called Hold'em, where you are from, right?
hold it.
Well, see, you're right, Jessica.
Yeah.
Jessica then says, French fries in France are just frites. You're correct.
Yeah.
And then for me, I always eat Chinese food, like every day.
Yeah.
People ask me all the time, so do you eat a lot of Chinese food? I say, yeah, whatever I cook is Chinese food because I'm Chinese. So it's default Chinese food.
Works for me.
It does. All right. So, um, what's your philosophy on game design? When I mean that is like when you're designing trading card games or just additional sets for trading cards or things like that. What is it that makes those games like compelling to you? What do you put of yourself into those games that you think is like indelibly you?
Hmm. I just want to make everything have like some good choices, a good amount of choices, and yeah, just choice, pretty much choice.
Mm. So player agency is a big thing for you. Like
Definitely.
so you wouldn't enjoy games that have like all luck.
Yeah, just not all the way linear. You
Mm-hmm.
gotta have that agency. Yeah,
Bit of choose your own adventure kind of thing.
something like that. Different ways to win and different ways to lose and such.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it about cards and trading card games that give you that choice? And if you can like just even remember back to when you first played that Machamp deck. Machamp is my son's favorite as well.
Or
So yeah, what was it about playing Pokemon that said, "Oh, this right here is what I want to invest, 4 or 5 years of my life into, is
mm,
playing this game and learning the ins and outs and making these choices." What is it about Pokemon that gives you choices?
hmm, that's a good one. So you get your 7 card hand. It's like, I mean, everything's kind of laid out for you, but then like you've got these choices of 7 cards right here. When you build your deck, I mean, you start with the starter deck. You've got your 7 cards, and then you can say, okay, Pokemon has evolution cards. So like, say I have a
Squirtle.
starts Machop, Machoke, and Machamp. So let's say I only have a Machamp in my hand with a Machop. So I could choose to play my Machop in the front as my starting Pokemon, or I could put him in the back as my bench Pokemon. So let's say I also have another fighting type Pokemon. Let's say I have let's say I have a Diglett in my hand. I could put the
Diglett.
Diglett out in front and then try to evolve into the Machamp, or And I mean, you're starting out with choices, and
Hmm.
you just learn, and what's the best thing to do? It's just trying to
And
play those probabilities.
and the Pokemon part of it is a big deal, isn't it? Like the fact that it relates back to the Pokemon IP and all of, like, you feel like you're being a Pokemon trainer a bit, right?
Yeah,
Is
I mean,
that part of the vibe? Like, is that
de-
I'm slightly too old to have been into Pokemon, so
definitely
I don't quite get it.
like the show had kids gotta catch them all, and
Yes.
and the kids in the show had kids catching seizures in Japan like one time, like on a crazy mass level. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. Way back in the day, so when Pikachu would electrify people with
Mhm.
it would like the animation was so flashy that some
Oh,
children
no.
would catch seizures. Won't catch, you don't catch a seizure, but have a seizure because of the rapid pace of the video. Yeah,
Oh, yikes.
that was a
I did
thing.
not know that.
So Pokemon was very famous before
Oh, no, no. I mean, I
it was
used to
even
watch
that,
it
right?
with my my flatmates back in the day
Hmm.
instead of going to university, but I was just too old to be, like, hella into it. It's like,
Yeah.
"Nah, I think I'm probably just gonna sit here and eat corn fritters instead of going to class."
Yeah.
Yeah, let's watch some more Pokemon.
So the cool thing that you described there, Lamarcus, is that right off the jump, you have a limited amount of stuff, but you have still quite a wide decision space within that limit of 7. So you don't have a full, like every single card in your deck's not available to you, but with what you have to choose which ones are going to get placed where, which ones are going to be your attacks, and which ones are going to, help you evolve into the next, level. And all these things are very, very deep and maybe difficult decisions. How do you think trading card games teach the players how to do that, especially younger players? Because Pokemon essentially is for kids, but the
Um,
game has like deep, deep, deep strategy to it that, there was recently just the World Pokemon series, and it was really well attended. There were lots and lots of people there. So what is it about trading card games that allow us easily to play the game as it's meant to be played, in a different way than, say, a board game where you have to learn all the rules at once? What is it about cards?
the key word I think here is balance.
Mhm.
I have the balance. So like you got to have the balance to make a an 8-year-old be able to play and a 52-year-old be able to play. So you've only got so many choices with one hand of 7 cards in the beginning, and then like you can make like say let's say you got 4 decisions, not too many decisions, but you just try to make the best one, and then nothing can be way too stronger than anything else. So that comes into the design part of it, and Pokemon has that really cool thing about the weakness and resistance. So it's just a whole beautiful thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah, very cool. So let's get on to your segment about trading card games or TCGs. So before we start, let's define trading card games. What does that mean, Lamarcus? And what is a trading card game? And maybe what isn't a trading card game?
Mm.
Hey, so we got trading card games. So the word trading card games, they started with Magic the Gathering and Richard Garfield back in 1993, I believe it was. So this is a Magic card right here, and they come from their lineage comes from, of course, sports trading cards or whatever kind of trading cards. And then one day, as legend has it, Richard Garfield was in the forest one day, and then he was thinking about a game called the Five Magics. And then he was thinking, what if I merge trading cards with a board game to make variable games every single time you play the game, so it's never the same, almost pretty much. So, and one of his biggest influences on Magic the Gathering was this game, Cosmic Encounter, right here. They say
Mhm.
one of the major influences. One of those games I've yet to open still and play. I'm sure Kat and George know all about that.
Guilty.
Make me some Christmas presents about that. But
Yeah.
yeah. So Cosmic Encounter, never played it, but that's one of those games with the variable player powers, bunch of different cards going off, crazy stuff. So anyway, he had the game 5 Magic, so then he made Magic the Gathering, and so yeah, trading card games. So most of these guys, there's like a few different types of them. There are like the wizard game, what they call them, where you have resources to summon minions and cast spells, and there's a color pie to make this strong in this area, and then you've got like the grid games where like things are on a grid. Then you've got fighting games where you're actually you yourself, you're the guy throwing the punches and the kicks and things like that. Fighting game Avatar or whatever. And so there are usually like limiters to things that you can put in your deck. So usually decks of these types of cards, they usually contain between 40 to 60 cards normally. And usually you can only put like certain factions in a deck, or you'll have limiters. I guess I'll just go like this and pretty much show like how these things pretty much go from the beginning.
Sure.
Cool. Yeah, this is really good.
So there are like the top 3 trading card games that have been on the market since 93 or whatever. Well, since 93, it's been like 30 years. So pretty much.
That's not true. 93 was like really recently.
Pretty recently. All right. So ever since they've been out, there's been like three games pretty much holding the crown. And then there are Magic, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh. So starting off with Magic, it's the main one. So we've got, this is the resource. This is what limits you in what you can do. So you need resources to play cards in most trading card games. So this is an island resource. Every turn you can usually play, in Magic, every turn, the base thing is you can play 1 land. This one has a blue land and island. Blue land. There are red lands, there's black land, green land, and white land. But you can play 1 per turn. This gives you like this is the equivalent of $1. I've got 1 blue dollar right here.
Okay.
I like that.
Thank you.
So in Pokemon, and you start off with usually like 5 to 7 cards in a trading card game after you shuffle your deck or whatever. Okay, in Pokemon, there's energy. Much the same as Magic's lands, this is the resource. So in Pokemon, you start the game by putting out 1 Pokemon in the front, and then up to 5 Pokemon in the back row, what we call the bench. They're sitting on the bench in the sports arena or whatever. And you've got your 1 or more 1 to 6 Pokemon out there from your 7-card hand, and then you can play 1 energy per turn on a Pokemon. It could be your front Pokemon or one of your back Pokemon. That's the decision space. So, and then much like Magic, we've got different colors. So this one is a brown one or whatever. This is a fighting energy versus a blue land. And then you can put 1 on a Pokemon per turn. And then you'll have Pokemon that are just all taking brown energy. Some of them take any color. Some of them might take a brown and a red energy. Stuff like that. 1 per turn. And then we've got, and here goes a gray Pokemon energy. All right. Then we've got the game Yu-Gi-Oh, which came out in, I believe, the year 2000 or so, 98, 2000, something like that. Okay. But the thing about Yu-Gi-Oh that switches things up is they actually put the resource onto the creatures. So like in this game, in TCGs, there's usually creatures and resources. Those are the main 2. So this one combines the creatures and the resources. So how Yu-Gi-Oh works is you can play 1 basic creature with, which they call them monsters in here. You can play 1 basic monster with up to 4 stars on it, 4 balls on it, for free every turn. That's what you call the normal summon. And then to play a higher guy, you've got to do what you call a ritual summon. We'll get into that. But the basic resource in this game, Yu-Gi-Oh, is you get to play up to 4 balls, 4 stars worth of guys. No, 1 guy, for 4 stars, up to 4 stars per turn. And then it has an attack and defense, and attack is 0 right here and 1200 right here. And it's still horrible lighting, but you get the picture. All right, then we've got another type of game. We've got Flesh and Blood. It's a new one. This one is one of those fighting type of games where you yourself are the avatar, and there's not really a bunch of creatures running around. It's just you throwing kicks and punches and you blocking with your fist or whatever, or shield. So this one has a go again, and these resources are, this one, you only get to play one, in this game, you only get to play 1 card per turn, unless it says go again. And then it does 2 attack, and if you play it defensively on the opponent's turn, then you get to block 2 damage. And then usually, I didn't kind of go into this, but you've got, in these type of games, you've got life. You've got a life that you've got to maintain, or else you lose the game usually. That's usually the win condition. So in Magic, you have 20 life. We track that 20 life with these kind of deals right here, little spin down dice, these type of dice. And then in Pokemon, you have 6 cards of life, what you call prize cards. In this Flesh and Blood,
do you use a D20 to track your life?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, cool. I mean, that's the most. I mean, some people use the phone, whatever. But yep. And then we've got so this one we got an effect creature. This guy has an effect, and it's 2 stars, so you can play that one free. That's the resource. One creature per turn. And then we've got, okay, so we're getting into the creatures. Okay, so Magic. Here goes the creature. This is a prickly marmoset creature. So it has the first number is its attack. That's what it's attacking with. So this attacks for 2 damage out of your possible 20 life. And then it has a 3 toughness, 3 strength, 3 defense. Just like an RPG kind of. Okay. And then they'll have these keywords on them. So, I mean, they do different things. But this guy right here, so this guy would cost you, if you can make that. Yeah, that's much better. Okay. So this guy costs you 2 of any resource and 1 red. So you'll need to, how this goes in Magic, you'll have a land out here, you'll tap it, and then that'll give you 1 of anything, but you need at least 1 red and 2 of anything else. So $3 total, 1 red though. That's how that goes. All right, this is just another game. 1 attack, 1 defense right there. We've got a Pokemon creature, Clefairy. Everybody loves Clefairy. Clefairy has 60 HP as life, and Clefairy does, for 1 of any kind of energy, does 10 damage. For 2 energy, 1 of them being purple, you can do the magical shots, which is 30 damage. That's how that goes. Another Pokemon guy. And then, okay, so going back to the resources, we've got this Morphin. So this Morphin costs 5 balls. So right here, you can't use your 1 normal summon per turn. What you got to do with this is the resources that you have to pay on this one is you have to actually sacrifice 1 of your other creatures to bring this guy out, 1 of your other monsters. So say you previously played the Soul Tiger, you can do what you call a ritual summon, which is you sacrifice this at the ritual altar to kill the Soul Tiger, and then you can summon the Mordenfin. Yeah, got that. And this guy happens to be like much more powerful. It has a 1550 attack and 1300 defense.
Oh, that sounds like it's starting to get quite mathsy.
It is, and it's not. Those numbers, they're kind of this big joke in the scene, because you could divide by 100 and it'd still be the same number, right? But people, especially kids, love these giant numbers, right?
Yeah, like, I did 15,000 damage.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. When you think about Pokemon, or not Pokemon, but sorry, like Dragon Ball, right? And Dragon Ball is like over 9,000.
Yeah.
So, right? So
I haven't
even sort of ideas behind why those big numbers are somewhat attractive to people.
Right.
Whereas in Magic, it's like, you know, a 7/8 is like this giant creature, and in Yu-Gi-Oh, it's like, you know, it's got to be in the thousands before you think about even like, you know, wanting to summon that thing.
They say too, like it's also because like the denominations of the money, like we've got like $1, but they've got like 100 yen is
Yeah,
like
yeah,
our
yeah.
$1 or something.
Yes, they're used to thinking, and yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I
there's
hate
definitely cultural issues. That's really cool. That's good to
That's super helpful, Marcus, because I've LaMarcus, sorry,
Marcus.
because
I really go Marcus, but
yeah,
yeah.
I thought you'd, yeah. Because I've, as I mentioned, not really looked at trading card games because I often find them quite overwhelming, just thinking, oh no, there's so much to process. And what you just did there is you completely made that accessible. Like I get a whole lot more about how they work now, and they're not scary. And I know that you're partway through, but even like that, I'm already feeling like, oh, I get it. So this is an excellent resource.
Man,
Thank you.
so like yesterday I was playing, like I do like a lot of gameplays on my channel, and then yesterday
Mm-hmm.
I was playing the Gears of War newly released card game. They just make it so insanely complicated for no reason. The rules could be on 1 or 2 pages side by side, but they spread it out, and when you're trying to learn it, you got to flip back and forth between the book. They just try to make it way more complicated than it really needs to be a lot of the time.
Mm.
Yeah.
I hate about it.
George has a question. It's a good one. George asks, what are your thoughts on this new wave of games that have dispensed with resources via cards, where the turn number is your available resource amount? So basically the Hearthstone model, where turn 2 you have 2 energy to spend, turn 3 you have 3 energy to spend. What are your thoughts?
Some people say that it's too simplified. Some people like it, like, I mean, it really serves the digital landscape in that you don't have to do all that upkeep and bookkeeping, and then it makes games faster. But some people say, like, it takes away from the complexity and depth. But I like it. I like all type of them. I like the really long ones. I love the really short ones. So either way for me.
He is a non-discriminatory person when it comes to getting and cat, this is a term that you're gonna hear in the genre of
Mm.
getting like, and you're not gonna like it, and I know you're not gonna like it because we've had this talk before. Is about the M word.
Oh yes, mana. Yeah, okay, we're
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah. So, do you want to explain why it's not a word we should be really using?
So
Don't be the fun police.
it's not that.
But
It's
you gotta be. But you
actually
gotta
it's actually a sacred word. It's a very important word in Maori culture. So it's sort of you use it, it means so many things that it doesn't actually have any parallels in English. It's almost impossible to explain. But if you think about something that you consider to be really, really really important, that it would really upset you if someone did something to that, whatever it is, it could be a person, it could be a thing, all of those sorts of things, and you feel that sort of, it would really hurt you if someone disrespected it or damaged it, or those, that's how we feel about mana, because it's such a deep woven part of how we associate with the world and how we interact with the world, and having it used as like a tracking device in a, like, let's see how strong we are in a card game, it's like, damn, no. This is like, if you're very religious, it would be like calling it the Holy Spirit. Ha ha, let's see how much Holy Spirit we've got left. You can see, even if you're not religious, how that would be like, oh, that's quite disrespectful. It's that kind of a thing. So for us,
Mhm.
mana is, you talk about how someone's mana, so how respectable they are, what their status is within a society. You can give someone mana, like you can improve their mana by the way that you behave towards them and the way that they behave towards you. So if I were to host people, that would improve my mana, that would increase my standing and improve my mana as such. But in the process of being appropriately welcoming to people, I'm also giving them more standing. So it's this very complicated, powerful interaction between people, and I'm actually not qualified to talk about it in depth because I'm urban Cook Island Maori. I have almost no connection with the tangata whenua and
Mhm.
all of the, but at a high level, it's a very precious and very special word, and so using it in games in this way, I think the Holy Spirit for religious people is probably the closest I could get for like, or if people were, I don't know, using the Quran or something like something where where you feel it's very part of the core being for you. If
Mhm.
you imagine someone else was using that as toilet paper, it's kind of that vibe. It's that upsetting.
Has there ever
Yeah.
been an uproar about it? Because I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
game's been going on for like 30 years. I haven't
Mm-hmm.
heard about
Yeah.
it until you said so. Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we're tiny. We're a tiny proportion of a tiny country. So if you were to speak to New Zealand designers, Maori New Zealand designers, a lot of Polynesian designers will be able to tell you, yeah, we're constantly talking about it. Like we've had every game conference, we're sitting there going, so how do we get the world to not do this? And the world is just like, whatevs, we like what we do. It's like saying don't have a tiki bar. Like tiki culture is wicked offensive, but sure, it's also like making people lots of money at Walmart.
Hmm.
Right.
Are the Maori like Aborigines or?
Yeah, yes. So the New Zealand Maori are related to Cook Island Maori, which is I'm from the Cook Islands. Well, my family is from the Cook Islands, so we're part of the same group. But the New Zealand Maori, which is the ones I know the most about, are yeah, we've had a lot of the same problems with land and all of those sorts of things. We didn't get it as badly as the indigenous people here in the US and then North America, but we got it badly. We for generations, several generations, people weren't actually allowed to speak the language. Kids got beaten for speaking Maori, all of those sorts of. So there's a whole lot of yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah. It's a
Oh,
lot. It's not for
It
this.
is.
It's not for this conversation,
Yeah.
but there's a
Uh,
lot there.
Jessica says thank you for sharing that bit of insight, because I think it's something that needs to be talked about. And you're right. When cultures are a smaller percentage of a larger group, voices can get drowned out.
Yeah.
Or people think it's not as big as a problem because there's no uproar about it. It's hard to be an uproar where you're not, or to make an uproar where when you're a very small percentage of the world in general, let alone the gaming population. So the idea, anyways, and why I mentioned that is that the whole idea of the progressive turn structure, where every turn you get one more piece of energy, is to stop what happened in Magic. And Magic was you got basically energy screwed. If you didn't draw land in the first few turns, you could
Ah,
you would probably never keep your hand if you had no land in it. You would say, "Oh, I'm gonna mulligan and redraw." And there's all sorts of rules about mulliganing and whatnot in trading card games. But those rules were necessitated by this whole energy structure where you had to have the cards to provide the energy to then make the other cards that were usually a bigger part, well, not a bigger part of your hand, but the fun part of the hand. Like the land is not fun. Well, some of
yeah.
them can be.
It's just there,
It's there
right?
to power
It's
the
the
rest of the game,
resource
right?
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this whole climbing energy structure, and a lot of people in the chat are mentioning that there's, Marvel Snap is doing that as well, which makes for a very quick game, says David Thomas. Andrew Wolf, who is at Pokemon, he designs for Pokemon. He says it's generally a good idea to not manage resources a lot in trading card games. Um, and then Evan Halbert is saying that he loved the WoW system, where you could flip any card face down if you didn't have an actual resource card to pay for another card. And
So
that's
is that
really
a
cool
little bit
too.
like sacrificing that card? Like, is that a little bit
For
like
for
the
that turn, yeah. So let's
oh,
say you
just for the
have
turn?
well, I mean,
yeah,
it's for the rest of the
depends.
game.
Ah,
Yeah, yeah, it depends on the game. Yeah, but
okay,
yes, sometimes it's for the whole game, sometimes it's for the turn where it's like instead of attacking with this creature, I'm going to sacrifice its ability for this turn or the game or whatever
right.
to power up something else or to summon something else that I want more, right?
Okay.
But on the contrary, though, to be devil's advocate, though, what people often overlook, though, is, I mean, one of the major reasons why Magic has lasted so long, 30 years, is the fact that you can get mana screwed and mana flooded. It makes for great variance, like the games of poker. You can't really, it's not purely skill based. So, where me as an amateur, I could be the top ranked pro just by rolling the dice. because I drew the mana because I drew the land. Apologies.
No, it's fine.
Good
It's in the
roll.
game. It's in the game. It's all good.
in the game.
Those are the
But
words. It's fine.
I mean, I drew the land, whereas they did not draw the land. And like it's been working 30 years, but things that work a long time, maybe you got the first to market advantage. But it keeps things interesting though.
Well, yeah, and I think there's definitely some deck building around all of that structure, right? The energy structure for Magic means that you need a deck that's of a certain size. You have to have about, most people like it's like, you want about 33% of your deck to be mana producing or energy producing. At like the very basic level. And then once you get to more advanced structures, then you're like, I can cut that down because I have all these other things that if I get them out, then they're going to produce energy for me while they're also attacking and doing all this other stuff, right? Andrew Wolf, who also worked on the World of Warcraft TCG, thinks that there are pros and cons to using that any card as a resource system because
That's
it
what you meant
adds.
by WoW.
Yeah,
Sorry.
WoW is World of Warcraft because it adds a lot more complexity to the choices, which is good at a certain level and obviously not so good at another level because a novice player might say, I need the energy now, and then they are going to lose because they made a really bad decision that they cannot retract anymore. Yeah, and George, you're right. Management of the whole land system was a skill. But yeah, this whole climbing energy is a solution to a problem that was no fun, and it led to, unfortunately, some of the least fun decks. And I say this as somebody who makes mill decks all the time because I think they're hilarious. Nobody else does.
You make what, sorry?
It's called a milling deck. I'm a blue-black
Mhm.
player, so I'm the type of player that will stop you from doing anything you want to do. And in a competitive game, I don't care because I'm here to win. In a fun game, I will never play that deck. But in a competitive game, I will never let you play a card if I can.
Okay,
Uh,
so I think I'm missing something here because it sounds like you get to prepare particular decks and you can just choose to use either this deck or that deck somehow. Are
yes,
you about to cover that, Marcus?
Yeah. So
we can do it now.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
So
let's
trading
do
card
that then.
games. So the
Okay.
whole thing about the trading card games and its inception is like he had the idea. Everybody makes their own deck of that 40 to 60 cards. So you're gonna put whatever you want within the limitations of the current legality into your deck, and then you go
Mhm.
and face off against somebody else. So seeing he's playing a blue and black deck, black is known for just death and countering and death spells, like
Oh,
instant death
good.
spells.
Black
And
being
then
a positive color again.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
positivity. And blue, we've got blues known for the control, so they'll stop you from playing your cards by playing the blue cards.
Okay.
So yep. And then red, known for the going fast and direct
Destruction.
damage.
Yeah.
And white, known for life gain, was often known as the worst color. And then green is for getting more resources and being big and stomping over other guys. So that's how
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Kat, you might actually be really interested in this. There are because it's had a 30-year history, there's so much stuff that goes into Magic, the Gathering, very specifically Magic. And one of my favorite things, as a psych prof, is psychographics of Magic players. And it started with 3 and it's advanced to more, but they actually have done like studies into who plays what types of cards based on like personality, and
Mhm.
it's actually really interesting, right? So, as a blue black player, if you know I'm a blue black player, you might now know something about me, and
I
you might
mean,
know something about
I
how I
already do
play.
just from this. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Well, we're just going to be a little bit more careful than we thought we were.
No, it's not like that. Um, so yeah, and a lot of it is can you exploit the rules of the game to get a win? That's that, and because there are so many cards and so many interactions of cards, that is really kind of the core of a trading card game system. Is that it becomes this unlimited sandbox playground with that still has rules, right?
So
So it's
there's
slightly
one
limited,
word.
but really very unlimited.
There's a word we haven't actually addressed yet, and that's the trading part.
Oh, that doesn't happen much, but yeah.
But I've heard of people losing cards from their Magic deck to other players and things like that. How does that happen? I was like, oh no, you're not taking my cards.
So the thing is, like back in the day, before the smartphone, there was a lot more trading, value trading. But I mean, it's like you've got like say we're playing Pokemon, and then we've got the 10-year-old versus the 30-year-old, and then like the 30-year-old might know the value, and it might be a scummy 30-year-old, but then there's a 10-year-old who doesn't quite know everything, and then they've got the valuable they've got the valuable
Like a shiny
Pikachu.
Yeah.
Valuable. They've got the valuable shiny Pikachu or whatever, but it's just a Pikachu though. But then you got this other guy. He's got the non-valuable shiny Charizard. But the little kid, he wants the Charizard. But little does the little kid know that the Charizard is worth $1 versus that shiny Pikachu, which may be worth
hundreds.
hundreds.
Yeah,
Who
I
knows?
saw a post recently about someone who took their shiny like first edition Pokemon or something along to show kids at a class, and the mother was getting super mad because like her son wanted that card and why wouldn't he sell it to her? And she's like, "Look, I'll give you $200 for it." And he's like, "No, look, I'm not selling it. Here's a link to what this would cost on eBay." And then she gets super mad with him about it because how dare anyone charge that amount for a card, and why would he show that to her kid because blah blah blah. And I was just like, I mean, I understand where she's coming from because her kid now wants something that's maybe worth 10 grand, but also like this is a really good life lesson for your kid.
Yeah.
Some
So
things cost more than you think. You can't have all the things.
in the olden days, way back when, so like 30 years ago, there was this thing called ante.
So in the 70s.
Yeah, there was this thing called ante, and I don't mean like my auntie. I mean like you ante up a card.
Like in
And
poker.
yes,
I
and
know
so
that
you
one.
would actually play to win the spoils of the game. The winner would take the other player's card.
Like marbles, but worse.
Yeah, like $1,000 marbles, right?
Oh no.
So that is not really a thing anymore. In fact, this is why a lot of the cards got like banned from schools. Was because this was causing a ruckus and
I
it was seen as
understand
betting
now.
and all these things, right? So you could see why they were not so welcome at school. Even though I know tons of people who learned to read basically because of things like graphic novels and Pokemon.
Look, we were having fights over knucklebones and marbles games. I mean, kids are going to fight over whatever they fight over. Banning particular cards seems like, I don't know. I don't have kids. It's not something I really associate with too much. So parents out there are probably going, no, it's because, and that's fine.
Yeah. And the other thing about trading was that these were all random assortment packs. Like you would get a booster pack and it's a random card set in there. You were guaranteed to get X number of commons, rares, and uncommons in a magic booster of 15 cards, but you didn't know which ones. And so it was very much that gotta get them all Pokemon mentality. And trust me, I got them all because I
Oh,
am that type of person.
yeah. No, that's one of the reasons I don't, is because I'm like
Well,
that.
exactly. When anybody ever tells me about a new TCG that comes out, oh, you got to play it, then it's like, no, I know myself so well that I would literally, and especially now because I have money, I can go and suitcase, and I was a suitcase player. I was telling the chat that I had 4 of every card in Magic from beta to the dark. And then I sold it all to go to school because it's like that'll pay for my entire tuition for my post grad.
Oh, wow.
It was a lot of money. But now if I had it, because I did that like almost 25 years ago, if I had those cards now, I could retire easily.
Right now, the talk is with the way that the economy is going now with the cards and how they reprint everything to death and the power creep and everything now. Now they're actually advising people to go ahead and sell your new modern cards. And then if you want to come back to the game later, then by the time you come back now, the new cards will have power crept your old cards. So your old cards will have shrunken value. So now, like the way things are now, the way they're printing cards is like, you really do want to sell your stuff now.
There's a whole meta economy too. And hey, this is funny. George says that he sold his collection to fund a solid portion of his move to New Zealand.
That was not
So,
my fault. We
so
didn't know each other then.
your
Okay.
whole relationship, Kat, is powered by magic.
All right, Magic.
I mean, it is though. It is powered by
It
magic,
is
darling.
magical, yeah. This is interesting. So George's point was that when you lost in an anti game, that you have to go add another card to your deck, which does fuel buying more, of course. But that is one of the things. But Dave says, I think part of the point of the ante was to encourage trading. But it's back when Richard Garfield might have been thinking that the rare cards might have only been worth like $10 a piece.
He
Not
didn't
like
know people very well.
thousands and thousands of dollars. Yeah, I mean, he's a math professor. He should maybe think about numbers.
Yeah, but there's numbers and then there's people. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, George really does want to talk about power creep in trading card games. But Kat, you have a question first.
I did have a question based on the other stuff first. So you've mentioned commons, uncommons, and rares.
Sure.
So commons, would they be like the vanilla type of card that's not terribly exciting? And an expression I heard was French vanilla, which I really like. Would that be an uncommon?
Yeah.
So,
And then like, I don't know, like triple chocolate fudge is the rares or something.
So like this is a cool thing that they baked into the game with Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like right here. Okay, so you've got the regular guys, they're gonna be slightly lighter. These are the vanilla guys. They've got no effect on them. So we call them vanilla. They're flavorless. Well, I mean they vanilla flavor. But then you've got
basic
the effect monsters. Yep, we got the effect monsters. Nobody really calls them chocolate, but you could just call them chocolate though. They're like a little darker, and they've got an effect that goes along with them in their text box, so they do something like so. Vanilla,
So
no effect.
maybe they're French vanilla then. They just
French
do a little bit more.
French vanilla.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Work for me.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mochaccino.
Yeah, and so Kat, a lot of times the common cards are very basic and simple. They don't cost a lot, or they do. Sometimes they cost a lot, but they just are basically, what they are is what they are.
So like
And
there's basic and then there's high maintenance basic.
yeah,
Is that right?
yeah, kind of. Or they do
Okay.
more things, or they interact differently. And sometimes they're literally just rarer. And you'll find these rare cards that like nobody wants because they might have been
'Cause they're
rare, but
basic.
they don't do anything in the game worthwhile.
Okay.
Or they
and when
do
you
very
talk
little in the
about-
game.
Yep, and when you talk about rarity, you've got to talk about the way Magic, because Yu-Gi-Oh, you got to talk about drafts. This is where Magic shines, and it's lasted so long because it has different ways to play. Magic isn't but one game; it's actually really three or more really different games. Like three different games on the shelves. It's literally three different games on the shelf. One of the games is draft. Draft is where you get like a box of Magic cards, and then everybody gets like what you get a pack, you open a pack, then you pick one card, and then you pass it along to the left to the next player. They get a card from there. Then you keep on going like that. Get one card, pass the rest, and then like that makes those worthless cards. You're gonna need those worthless cards when you've got a limited pool to make your deck of 40 cards from.
Right.
So, and then the rares, they're going to be even better than they are in the regular game where you construct your whole deck beforehand. Those rares are going to be more powerful because you had to make a deck on the fly of those 40 cards.
Unless you get
cool.
just
Okay.
the goblin coin flip stuff, where wasting the rare slot, George. And David,
That's
you are
completely
correct.
incomprehensible. What?
You are correct, David, that it is based on the percentage of the set. That sets are usually divided up that way. So yeah, drafting is my favorite way to play too. Cube draft or just like booster draft. During the pandemic, that's what we did with my family. My wife, who's played Magic for 30 years as well as I have, and my two kids, we just bought a box of whatever the latest set was. We had a bunch of lands. You could do whatever you want for lands. You just get all the lands you want. And then for the draft, it was exactly that. We'd open every round of playing each other once. So we'd play 3 games. So I would play one kid and the other kid and my wife, and each of them would play each other, and we'd tabulate the scores and who has most wins, and then we'd open another booster and we'd draft again and we'd draft again and we'd draft again. It was a great way to spend a whole year on with one box of cards. And a box of cards is usually about $400 to $500 Canadian. So it was a worthwhile investment of our time, I think, because we spent like hours and hours doing this. And my kids would deck build, my wife would deck build, which was pretty funny. She's kind of she was the only woman in our Magic League at McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. The only woman in
Out
the
of how
Magic
many
League.
people?
Oh, this was right when this is 1993, 1993, 1994, 1995. So out of like not a lot because it was a very new game at the time, but because she was my girlfriend at the time, she's like, oh, I guess I'm going to spend some time doing this. And she did. And it was fun. And we did exactly the same idea for that. It was like um, a sealed booster and a sealed deck draft. So you'd get a starter deck and 4 boosters to start. And then every month or so, I think every month, we'd give everybody another 2 boosters. And it was just super fun. And you could trade and do all these types of things. So I think when you have like a smaller set of people and there's like a limit of things that are available within that pool, trading does become or can become part of the game more so than it does when you're talking about like national level championships. And pro league and stuff like that, which, if we want to ever talk about that, we can drag Andrew onto the show. Andrew's an ex pro, and there's a bunch of other ex pros that we know that could come on and chat about that whole thing. It's a whole different level of play. It's ridiculous.
Whole new world.
Yeah. Marcus, did you still have some more of the presentation that you wanted to continue with?
Yeah,
have
you
we
can
covered
totally.
it, or have you?
Yeah, let me shotgun this thing. So we got we got creatures. These are the creatures, monsters, Pokemon. Okay, so creature right there. You got their cost, their energy cost, and then you got to pay that. So the way these resources things goes is like in Magic, you'll just get the land and then you'll turn it sideways. That's what you call tapping. That's the main thing. Usually you'll have to do something like that, and it comes out on
tapping means you used it.
Tapping means turning it 90 degrees to the right, and then that means you've used it for the turn. But
right.
then it
cool.
comes back, but then it becomes
and then it resets.
Beginning of return.
Oh, cool. Okay, thank you.
And then and then that comes out as a 2 attack, 2 defense, and then when you've got your creatures on the field, then in Magic you're going to swing with them, which is turn them to the right again, and then that means that they're swinging at the opponent. The opponent can block with one of their creatures or take the attack. And then if they take the attack, then it knocks down their 20 life health.
Okay.
Yep,
okay. So that's how the fight works. Cool.
Okay, so Yu-Gi-Oh! It's all about the you got the and then this is supposed to be describing like evolution. So like a lot of these games, they have like an evolution aspect of things. And then this is like a Magic example of evolution. Like it'll start this way, then you get to flip it. That's a certain type of evolution. Then we've got Yu-Gi-Oh! Like we've seen the ritual summon. Then Yu-Gi-Oh! Has an extra deck, what we call an extra deck, where you can do different things to get out stronger monsters, creatures, and then they'll extra deck, and then they're all kind of wonderful rainbows of colors.
Shiny.
Yeah, like get them out by doing different stuff. And then we've done the creatures, monsters / Pokemon. We've done the resources, the lands / energy, and then now we've got the sorcery, which is like the spells that you do on your turn. They're not permanents, what you call, that live on the field. These are things that come into play. They don't hit the battlefield. They go straight to the discard pile. But sorceries are one type that only get done on your turn. And then sorceries are Rumbling Rockside, deals damage to target creature equal to the number of lands you control. And then this one costs 4 CMC, converted mana cost. They call it something different now, but it costs 4. And then an example of so Yu-Gi-Oh's got the equivalent, just it's called a spell card. Yu-Gi-Oh was really made as a parody kind of Magic. That's how it started. And then we got Pokemon's got the same thing with the potion trainer card. can play that on your turn. Does the same thing, heals 30 damage. Then we got Instance, which can only be played on your turn. Well, no. It can be played on anybody's turn. Those are instants. Those are spells. They don't hit the battlefield. They get discarded. And then it does a thing like destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater. So pretty powerful stuff. Okay. And Yu-Gi-Oh's got the trap cards. You put them face down on the field, and then like you put them face
Those
down.
are my favorite. Yeah, those are
So it's
they're actually a
trap.
really cool thing. Yeah, it's literally a trap.
Trap cards are the best. And then Yu-Gi-Oh is kind of one of those grid games. You got a certain amount of spaces on the battlefield, but Magic, there's like unlimited space on the battlefield, so you can have 1 million tokens, which tokens are a thing. But on the Yu-Gi-Oh, you put them face down, and then you can't flip the trap on your turn, but on like any other turn later, you can flip the trap, I believe, and then you do what the trap says. And this one says select 1 union monster in your graveyard and equip it to an appropriate monster on your side of the field. No cost on these things. You just get to pay them.
You've triggered my trap card. It's actually quite amazing that Magic has done as well as it has without having an anime, because all the other ones that we're talking about, and usually the trading card games that are very well received, a lot of them come from Japan, and a lot of them have anime attached to it. You know, if the audience is wanting to talk more about trading card games, we can get Mike Elliott on the show, who designed like many trading card games. Get Andrew on the show. Pokemon. We got lots of people who do this stuff, and it is really interesting. Yeah,
I love it.
I was just thinking, so there must be a whole lot that goes on in the background. Like you've got these different formats, but when you're actually designing it, how do you design a trading card game yourself, Marcus? How do you come at it?
I've never fully succeeded, but I've only just started really trying to do that, like for the last year or whatever. Pretty much since like before last BGG.
Because you mentioned you had one that you were just starting to work on, and I was like, so how do you, like, from what I can understand from what you've explained, and this is my first time paying any attention to them, so I probably got it a bit wrong, but you need to basically have different types of cards. Those different types of cards need to have different powers and different contexts. You need an ability to heal yourself. You need an ability to attack. You need an ability to defend. So it's sort of like a lot of those kinds of fighty games, right? There's got to be that kind of
basic stuff. Yeah. A lot of these cards are premised around a duel. Yeah.
Right.
You just got to set the parameters. Well, I mean, sometimes you could have one. Well, I mean, every person for themselves. You could have it.
So they can be multiplayer.
Yeah. Could be 4-player. Could be whatever.
Okay.
But most of the time, it's 1v1. But
yeah. My favorite way to play is actually like Two-Headed General, which is super fun.
Oh yeah.
What does that mean?
I'll explain it to you later. Well, okay. So if there's 5 players, each player has their own deck, but I'm allied with this might be a different mode, but anyways, I can't remember what the name of the mode is, but this is my favorite mode. I'm allied with the 2 people next to me, like literally adjacent to me, but my enemies are the people across from me. And if the 2 people across from me get eliminated for any reason, I win. So, but the problem is that my friends' allies one of them is my enemy. Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah, go ahead, LaMarcus.
Oh, I was just saying night to Jessica. Yep.
Jessica's off.
Good night, Jessica.
All right. Yeah, but I mean, that's really the beauty of Magic, because Magic is the one game with so many different ways to play with the same product. Pokemon does not have that.
No.
Yu-Gi-Oh does not have that. No other game really has it to that level that Magic has it. So that's why it can survive with no good anime. So
right. And so you'll see like stores will offer Magic Night, but tonight we're doing Commander or Magic Night, and it's like, open format, or Magic Night, but it's whatever. And so there's lots of ways to get into Magic. There's some ways that are more like hyper competitive, and there's more ways that are casual. And I think that is, like you said, LaMarcus, one of the beautiful things about Magic is that if you want to play, there's probably somebody playing at your level, and that's not a disparagement. That's just, there's different levels, and you can find them.
Speaking of levels, I think one of the things about Magic that makes it really difficult to come into. So in 2018, we visited Portland and we met the lovely Forrest at Game Rules, which no longer exists, unfortunately. But, you know, life happens, different things happen. But that was his game store at the time. And he gave me a couple of starter packs for Magic. And I thought, actually, I know myself really well. I'm not going to open these. So I did not do that. I sure do. I still have them. Yes.
They might be worth something.
Oh, I know. And I'll have a look at that. But one of the things that I felt after that and before that and sort of the whole time was the sense that there's so much that you need to know that it's not really something that's noob friendly. Like, even just in this conversation, there's all this stuff that's happened. I've just been like, I don't understand any of what any of you are saying.
It is not. There's a ton of background knowledge that you require to play Magic.
And
I got a little story for this one. So like,
Yeah.
cool.
So I mean, like, the problem is the Uber weebs. So like, I've taught at least 10 people how to play Magic. Like, but you just got to do it in a simplified manner. But, like, one time I was teaching this chick that was new to the shop or whatever from out of town, and then, like, you know, she was getting it with me and everything. She's getting it. Like, you know, you just show the different types of cards, how they operate, and only tell them what they need to know at the moment.
Yep.
That's how you do it. But, like, you know, you might have one of these Uber weaves though. Like, you're trying to teach it, but then they're like, no. This is how triple strike works. They don't need to know about triple strike right now. We don't need to know about double strike right now. We just need to know we're just teaching first strike right now. So that's all they need to know right now. So
yeah, I think Kirsten's comment about casual MTG formats being her favorite are also my favorite. And I've been playing for 30 years, but they're still my favorite because nobody cares. It's not that serious, right? And when Magic gets serious is when I pull out the horrible decks that nobody likes, because then I'm in it to win it, I guess, you know. But when I'm playing just casually, I'm so much more willing to experiment and go out of my comfort zone and try new cards and all that kind of stuff. Have people built good cubes for new players with cards that are low on keywords? That is a great question. And, you know, so there's this thing, Kat, called net decking, where people just build the same deck that like the last year's champions built and then try to tweak it a little bit, right, to their own flavor. Or they just copy it outright and win everything with it, right? But a cube. So a cube is a collection of cards that you're going to draft from. And what Kirsten's actually asking for is a really good idea. A card cube that is low on keywords, but still fun. That's the rub, Kirsten, is that it has to be still fun. And so what she's actually asking for is is there an entry level cube? And I wonder if one exists on the net. I haven't looked into it because I haven't built a cube in, like, I don't know, a decade probably. But a good cube can replace us all tons and tons of card games, to be honest. Like, you can do so much with a good cube if you like Magic.
they've got the intro game night product, which is like a little hexagon or whatever. So that's pretty much that. So that's a good on board to new players. So
yeah, which is also Dave Thomas's comment about that. It's his understanding that Commander seems to be becoming the more dominant style outside of tournaments, and I think you're right. So Commander is also this style of play where it's a 100-card deck, no repeats within that deck, and you have a commander card, which is a slightly different way of playing, where that commander is, like you were talking about, like an avatar on the table type thing. And it's a different way of playing, but it is becoming more dominant because you don't need to be a suitcase player. And I've said that a couple times, so I'll explain what I mean by suitcasing.
Yes, please.
Suitcasing means that you were like me and you bought all the cards all the time to have the maximum allowance of that card for your deck. Because as LaMarcus was explaining, there are deck building limitations. And most deck building limitations in Magic where you can only have 4 of anything. And then there's cards that are restricted to 1, and then there are cards that are banned to 0. And I think that might be the basics of it. There might be some other cards. I haven't played competitively in a long time. But so I would literally go out and I'd buy 4 of every card, or collect, or I would literally just buy boxes. I would buy like $2,000 worth of the boxes when they came out. So I'd buy like 5 boxes by myself, and I'd get full sets, and I'd usually get 2 or 3 full sets out of all those boxes, and then I'd get the rest of them by trading or buying or whatever.
Oh my
Uh,
god.
and so I'd end up with suitcases full of cards, right? And so when I went to tournaments, and I would just be able to sideboard entire like 4 of anything into my deck at any time, which was
Wow.
yeah, it's a lot of money. But that's why I said when I sold them all, I paid for an entire postgraduate degree. It's a lot of
I
money.
don't. How much does that cost in Canada?
A postgrad?
Yeah.
Like for me, it was probably $30,000 easily.
Eh,
Yeah, so it's a lot of money.
That's a
And
lot.
then, but now all those cards would be worth like we're talking probably I would probably have close to $1 million worth of cards if I'd kept them.
Condolences.
Well, I mean, I've made more than that in my lifetime. In 30 years, I've made more than $1 million in work money, right? Just happen to have to spend it all too.
But
right?
yeah,
So
I mean,
don't
you
have it
also
all.
had 2 kids, which apparently cost about $1 million each anyway. So I mean,
To raise a child from 0 to 18 in Canada is about like $125,000 without any other like postgraduate or any other stuff. That's just like raw materials. It's a lot of money. Kids are expensive.
raw
Kids are expensive.
materials for
Raw
child.
materials, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and so Josh Fry says, magic is like the difference between playing poker with coworkers and in a competitive tournament. You just have to find the player level that you're comfortable with. And Kirsten saying when she taught Dice Masters, which is this WizKids game, which is kind of similar in a way because it's a collectible dice game.
Mike Elliott and Eric Lang made that one.
Yeah. And she built half-size teach teams with only 1 or 2 frequently used keywords. So I think having, and I'm going to look later, I wonder if there is like a beginner cube. That would be really cool to have.
I wonder if that's actually what Forrest gave me, because they were, George, feel free to chime in, but I'm pretty sure that they were like intro decks, like for new players. Like I'm pretty sure that it was like
that if they were in 2017-ish, he said 2018.
Yeah.
They probably were commander decks. They would have been commanders. Because it's just a deck. And it's like, there it is, done.
Or Planeswalker starters.
Yeah, because that would have been around the same time too.
I remember it was something like starter or beginner or intro or something on them.
Oh, okay.
George says standard starter decks. So, I mean, that shows what I know.
No, there you go.
That's all I remember.
Kat, you also had a question before all of this started. You wanted an answer for a question.
Oh, yeah. The difference between trading card games and LCGs, which I believe is living card games.
Yep. So living card games, those are just a word that Fantasy Flight has copyrighted somehow, just being jerks. And living card games are just games. They're pretty much trading card games, but they take the trading aspect out of it to where they just come out with a set amount of cards in a set, and then they sell you this set. Like this is trying to see if I have any just sitting over here, but do not have any sitting over here right now. But they'll just get you like you'll get like this like you'll get 3 copies of, and then sometimes they do it even kind of dirty too. Like say that the play set is like 4, you can have 4 of a card. Sometimes they might only sell you 3 of that card that you need in the set or something. No. But they won't really
make you upgrade.
But like they'll do that in intro products. So they'll have an LCG like Legend of the Five Rings, and you need 4 copies of a card to have a complete set that's legal for your deck. But they'll only give you 3 copies of those 3 copies of that card in that set as a starter product. But when they come out with a new set, they'll probably give you all 4 of it. But like say that there's like 20 cards in the new set, they'll sell you 4 copies of the 20 cards at 80 cards. You buy them for like $20. That's a living card game. To where you're not getting the randomized product. It's taking
right.
I see. Okay, right. So it's sort of for people who are more board gamer types like me, who don't want to have to trawl through a million like random booster packs to try and find that one thing they want. We can just get the thing.
Yeah, the whole culture of trading and buying cards is maybe not what you want, or you don't
I
want the
mean,
views. It's a lot of time.
It's not that I don't want that. It's that I'm conscious that I'm already, very literally invested in a bunch of other things, and if I
Yeah.
take on another expense, I might not have a husband
Mhm.
anymore.
So here
David's
with the
saying,
Call of Cthulhu, we've got like 20 copies of, 20 different cards, like 4 of each.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
yeah, David's saying that he avoided Dice Masters because he knew himself when it comes to collectible games. Exactly. Like I do not play any collectible things anymore because I know how I feel about them. Whether I like it or not, I need everything, and I will buy everything.
they've
I'm
actually so like Dice Masters has since moved on to like an LCG like
Yep.
playset type of thing model,
so they've moved into a different, like,
a
format
retail
in a
model.
way. Right, okay.
Yeah. So trading card games is really now we think of it more as like a model of sales as opposed to
Mm.
a type of game. It is both really, but yeah.
But they do that with Lego minifigs and things like that, right?
Yeah, like blind
So
boosters, right?
that's
Blind boxes.
yeah, as opposed to well, I mean, like, I know I had a major issue with Kinder Eggs. I'm kind of glad they don't sell them here because I would get obsessed whenever there was a new range of Kinder Eggs and I don't even eat the chocolate. I would just open them, give the chocolate to my coworkers and see if I had the full set yet.
It is
So,
not great chocolate. You're right.
I mean, it's not terrible chocolate, but it's also like, yeah, I'm okay without that. Ooh.
Another one that I haven't opened, like couriers that Kristen was talking about.
Yeah,
David
Kristen
was talking about. Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, cool.
George asks, would you consider Star Realms a living card game now?
Well,
That's a good question.
Star Realms is actually a deck building game. It's a combat deck building game. One thing that I'm trying to work on is like really merging the two, like deck building and trading card game or LCG, but nobody's truly really done it before. So like you can have a combat deck building game, much like the Star Wars deck building game. It's a great one, but it's still a deck building game. And the difference in between like a combat deck building game and a trading card game is like, you're doing the deck building versus you have a constructed deck. And this is one thing that really, I wish they would have named it something else, but people always like confuse deck building and deck construction. So now TCGs have to be called like deck construction games. Now that deck building games have their own category called deck building games.
Yeah.
But anyway, like it's two different things though.
Yeah. So
But-
just to clarify, right? So deck building games, you're building the deck while you're playing the actual game. Whereas,
and all of the cards for that are supplied as part of that game.
Yeah. Whereas a deck construction game is the meta is I'm doing the construction outside of play and I bring my deck to play.
Right. So
Which is the
Magic's a deck
TCG
construction.
LCG.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Kirsten says that David is wise. When they moved from New Zealand, to New Zealand from the US, she had to pare down her collection, but there's so many boxes of Dice Master. And Rainbow Draft is the best for Dice Master, she says. There you go. More questions. Yeah.
Rainbow Drafts.
Oh, it's funny. Josh Fry says LCGs are like having a weekend drug habit, but TCGs are like 7 days a week habit. You're not wrong. Like we literally call cards TCGs like cardboard crack because it is addictive. Like every time you open that, like poof, big hits right to the brain.
But like more with their personality types though, it's like you've got your different types of people, and some people
for sure.
on and some people they can handle it. But
yeah.
Right. Yeah. And
know thyself.
That Dice Master may have reinstated draft packs because going to LCG only lost the most fun casual draft format.
I think they do have like a combination of both type of thing now.
Oh, this is a great point. Netrunner is probably the most critically acclaimed LCG. Like people love it. It is also one that is out of print, and also one that is coming back.
Have you got it, LaMarcus?
They've I just actually cut out the print and play, and then I had one of them right here. But so they've got it used to be called Nisei, the fan made. So the story with that is, of course, Fantasy Flight lost the license. It wasn't from It wasn't from Richard Garfield. Somebody's holding the license now of Netrunner itself, but the fans came together and made up their own thing or whatever to make the game, and it was called Nisei. Now it's called Null Signal, and you can get the free print and play the system gateway, and then you can print that, and then that's Netrunner.
Cool.
Or you can, or like they make their own sets and everything, and good stuff. They added some new stuff like Trojans, all kind of crazy stuff.
That
It's
was actually something else I was going to ask about. Is print and play a big part of the TCG community?
Not huge, but it depends on your game. So like we've got the Harry Potter game. They've got our own fan-made community sets coming out, and they're kind of big on print and play. And we've also got recently the Warlord TCG. They were doing a lot of print and play, but now two of the fans have actually bought the license, so they're going to be coming out with more print stuff, but not so huge on it, but more print and play, more like proxying.
Yeah.
Proxying is like, tell them what proxying is, Sin.
Proxying is when you print up a card that you don't own the actual copy of just to play with it. Like
Right.
if you don't own a Black Lotus, because they're really expensive, you might want one in your deck just to try it out. So you're proxying that deck.
Right.
And so you print it out, you put it in your deck, and you play with it. And everybody knows it's fake, and that's okay. Just put it in a sleeve with a regular card back, and you're good. There's other things that do happen in the communities, and this is how actually I probably got into game design because of this. Is because of Magic. When Magic came out, it was the first game that I really actually thought deeply about because I was addicted to it, right? And because I was addicted to it, I actually understood. I could see, in the matrix of this is how a card is made. And so this is Usenet times, everybody. When I was on rec.alt.magic, whatever it was at the time, which is like way, way, way back when
Back in
Gopher and Archie and text only, like this is like in the 90s when the internet was not this, like you could not see people through the internet. It was just text. And there was all sorts of Magic groups on the Usenet where we'd say, hey, let's make new sets of cards. And that's what I got involved with, was making new cards, just fan cards, where we'd, draw up cards, we'd commission some art or whatever, and we'd print them out and we'd play with them. And that actually is probably really what I would credit with getting me into designing games as a, profession, is that, oh, we started with this and people liked the cards that I made and we had fun with that, and it never went anywhere. Like we weren't making them to sell them. We were just like, we want more cards for this game that we really like. And from then on, it was just like, okay, now I understand games a little bit better. I'd been making games forever, but I didn't really do the math side of it until Magic the Gathering came up, because it became so transparent to me because of deck building. Because when you are literally saying, I have 50 to 60 cards, and these are my constraints, what are the best 50 and 60 cards that I can pick to do the thing I want to do? And then you have to understand each card and how they interact with each other. And you're like, it's not like a need it, got it. It's like, I want this in my deck because I need this in my deck because, but what if they play this? Then I need this. And you think about it really deeply to the point where you're like missing classes and not doing your exams. And then you have to sell
Not
your cards.
sleeping and
Right.
yeah.
I mean, so it's funny, like my whole story of getting into game design was quitting role-playing games because I was failing classes. And instead of that, it's like, oh, I can pick up Magic and I can pick up these other things because they don't take as much time as role-playing games, because role-playing games like were eating my life.
And how'd that go? How'd that
like
work out?
tabletop role playing games or
Yeah,
games?
no tabletop role-playing games.
Yeah.
How'd that go? Well, I'm a professor, so I got all my degrees.
You got there, yeah. It's funny because David's saying something similar about Magic influencing his early designs.
Oh, that's hilarious. I really have to play that game, David, because I am a dyed-in-the-wool blue player. Blue is my favorite color in Magic. And I wonder, George, we'll have to have a talk about blue players and jujitsu later, because that'll be fun. That'll be interesting. Like,
speaking of which, George is saying,
yeah, Cat wouldn't have Akertiri without Magic the Gathering. No, and you're right, actually, in a way, because Jay and I, who is the co-designer of Akertiri with me, we played Magic together for years, and we lived in the same house, and we'd play Magic every day when he came home from work and all that kind of stuff. So yes. Yeah,
Uh,
we'll have to talk. Oh, interesting. Blue green. I want to like now we really have to talk about how does your jujitsu style relate to the Magic colors that you play? That is
I
fascinating.
think the personality side of it definitely comes into it, because from you describing those cards, I was like, oh, I think probably instinctively I would be either blue, black, but now that you've mentioned white and that it sucks, I would probably play white just because you said it sucks, because I'm just like that.
Evan, what were your colors? Gentle. So Evan did jujitsu as well.
Aww. He's
What
very
colors
good
did
at
you play?
cuddles, but I'm not sure. I can't imagine him being a very like a violent cuddler.
No. His nickname at the dojo was Gentle.
Yes.
Anything except red. Oh my gosh. This is coming to fruition. That's so funny.
You knew
What
Evan
about
isn't a red guy?
Pardon me?
You knew that Evan isn't a red guy?
I knew based on his jujitsu style. Yeah. Because he's like, his nickname in BJJ is Gentle. And so he plays no red because red is ungentle.
Mm.
That is super funny. Super funny.
So okay, all right. Let's see. I don't do jujitsu, right? But I used to do taekwondo, and my main style was attack fast and then spend the rest of the time counterattacking. So I would
Oh,
just let them wear themselves out, and I just wait, sting, wait, sting.
I guess that's what you call is it, which is blue red.
yeah, I was just gonna say
Okay.
blue
Yeah.
red, or
Blue red.
maybe green red, depending, or green blue, depending on how much. Like, if are you overwhelming the person eventually at the end?
I
Yeah,
mean,
me, I'm a
yeah.
green, red, blue guy.
Ideally, I like to throw combos and things that
Oh,
basically, you sit
combos.
there and you prep
Ooh.
and you prep, and then you just smash them, and they're like,
Yeah, that sounds blue red to me. That sounds pretty
okay,
blue red.
this is an interesting game.
Yeah. White is in a sense as well, like early weenies and late control. So weenies are really small monsters, like 1/1 monsters or
Weenies.
2/1 monsters or 1/2 monsters. Really small. They're cheap and they kind of do
Cannon
something at the
fodder.
beginning, but then nothing for the rest of the game until you build up a lot of them, and then they do tons, right? So yeah. Oh no, Kristen's saying, asking, is she the only one that is repping white? She loves white and or green white. You know what? I actually do like white a lot, and the reason why is because Sarah Angels are my favorite card of all time. Wow. Okay, they are my second favorite card of all time. Doppelganger being my favorite card, mostly because of the art. I love Quentin Hoover's art. So there you go.
This is a deeply hilarious conversation to be watching from like the I don't know what this means stage. This is
There you
really,
go.
really interesting.
Yes, Evan.
Because it gives me an idea of what things are based on because I know all these people and what they're
Yeah.
saying. What do you play, LaMarcus?
Yeah, I'm a red, green, blue type of guy.
Red, green, blue. Okay.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, very cool. Oh, these are funny times.
It's
Uh,
telling me about what these cards do based on what I know about these people rather than everyone else doing it the other way around. This is quite a cool experiment.
yeah, it's interesting, eh? And it is really telling. So you should go look up, Kat. Go look up the psychographics as well,
Yeah.
because it won't tell you the colors, but it'll tell you personality types as well, which is interesting. So, um, Mark Rosewater, who is the lead designer for Magic now, is, or I think is still, he often writes about all these things like on a daily basis. He's putting out little podcasts and blogs, and there's a lot of thought that goes into this. And I guess the other thing we need to just mention quickly, because we're running into like 90 minutes, but
Mm.
is that trading card games do not survive without community support.
Yes.
Like, you need community support, and you need a team that is preparing the next 2 or 3 releases
Mm.
as you're releasing the first one. Like, you cannot go into this anymore as an industry thing with just like your first set of cards and hope it works. You have to have plans. You have to have community.
Mm.
What are you doing for the community? How are you going to attract people away from Magic? Right? How are you going to take people from Pokemon and say this is better? you know, because our community is doing this, or because there's going to be new sets coming out all the time, and this is what they're going to do. So it's a fascinating look at the product of a game as opposed to the design of the game. But the design of the game is intrinsic to the product itself. So it's fascinating
It
stuff.
needs to be tasty and addictive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kirsten says that her hubby likes red black, which is really telling of both of us with her green white. You guys are like diametrically opposed. That's awesome.
I got a
Too
few more
funny.
things I want to hit
Oh
on.
yeah,
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 while I got
yeah.
the
Cool,
platform
cool. Yeah,
Let's
do
get
it,
to
do it,
those,
do
yeah.
it.
So I mean, as far as game surviving and everything, so I made a little group out here in Little Rock, the Dead TCG / LCG group. I got a little Facebook group, but not going swimmingly, but like you'll find the one guy here and there that does it. But anyway, I play like a lot of dead games too, but it's like the way that I mean, it really kind of burns me up the way that like you got your board gamers, you got your card gamers, you got your RPGers, but like when it comes to the card games, it's like the Monopoly is run by the Magics, the Yu-Gi-Ohs, and the Pokemons. But I still like playing a great varied amount of TCGs, but like hardly anybody does. But like that's how the cookie crumbles. But there's more to TCGs than just Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Pokemon, and Flesh and Blood, and what's new and coming. They're all fun if you ask me, but I'm just in the minority on that one. And
So your group, you arrange for people to come and you play the other ones. Is
yeah,
that what
just
you're
every
saying? Like,
Tuesday, like sometimes people will send me a game or something, we'll play it, and then and then just even old games, love to bust those out. We just played Netrunner Tuesday, like yesterday, and the new Netrunner, the Null Signal, and yeah, just I mean, a lot of fun to be had with TCGs. Doesn't have to be the new ones, the common ones, even the old ones from 20, 30 years ago are still fun. So give them a try.
That's good. That's really important to say that, because it's just like with a lot of the games, people will like, I don't know, they'll play Wingspan 500 times, but they won't look at what else is on the shelf. Wingspan's a great game, but there are so many more games that you could play.
Yeah.
So many
But
games.
I'm okay with lots of people playing lots of games many times, or a
Mhm.
few games many times, or lots of games once. I think it's whatever you feel like, right?
Yeah.
Kirsten's asking, do you know what Flesh and Blood has done to survive in the CCG space? I genuinely don't know, but have heard good things. I've heard great things about it. I will go look into that for you because I'm actually interested. I know they were doing some good community support. Um, I know that, games from Bandai have started doing some community support and then kind of dropped off, which killed the game because if the store who is selling the game can't bring people in to play it, they can no longer sell the game. It's really this kind of thing where if you as a company can't support the game, the stores that sell your game can't drive customers to your game or have less to drive them with. Therefore, they're going to go back to the old standards of, well, Magic or
Magic
Yu-Gi-Oh!
is,
Or whatever,
as
right?
as I understand it, Magic keeps most of the local game stores going. Like it's Magic and Pokemon and things like that that are getting people in the door and paying the bills, and
Mhm.
that's a shame because there's so much other stuff that's cool out there, like
Yeah,
Flesh and Blood, for example, which is
a
New
lot of
Zealand design.
stores are basically Magic first, everything else kind of
Mm.
second, because it does pay the bills. So I get it. I get it.
Flesh and
Ev
Blood also really excels in having different formats too. They have the
oh, good.
Blitz, which is like the quick, fast 20 life format. Then they have the Classic Constructed, which is 40 life long format. Then they've got Player versus Environment, like the old World of Warcraft TCG had. Then they've got all kind of stuff. They got the pit fight. They got all type of stuff like Commander. So they got
Yeah.
a bunch of good stuff going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Evan is saying that he has a lot of good but dead TCGs in his closet. I think like a lot of us do. Shadow Fist was a favorite of his back in the day, and George is talking about a Vampire: The Eternal Struggle, Illuminati, Babylon 5. These are all 90s games where even with like good IP, because IP is another thing that does drive most of these card games. They are related to something that has a hook from the outside. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we need to look at. If you are at like a major convention like Gen Con, you can often find people who sell just dead CCGs. Like
There was at least 2 big booths last time at
yeah.
Gen Con. But I
Mm.
hear
Yeah.
back in the day the prices were really cheap.
Yeah, they were. They used to be really, really cheap.
Then when I went, they were pretty run up by the time I got there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Evan, you're right that board games might be picking up a larger market share, but it's definitely true when Evan was running his store cafe that the magic was what was powering most of it, right?
Some of them Warhammer too, but that's a whole nother
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's another thing that I played instead of instead of role playing games when I was looking for, oh, I need to play games, but not, role playing games because that eats up way too much of my time. Unlike Warhammer or Magic. Oh, that's
So-
funny. Yeah.
So did you want to touch on anything else there, Marcus? Have we covered everything that you wanted to say?
Well, if you like trading card games, check out my I do a podcast every 2 weeks. Don't know how long I will keep this up, but I got the This Week in TCGs podcast if you want to check that out. And on my channel, Foyo Games on YouTube, I've been doing 2 videos a day. Like I'll do like a regular video, then I'll do a gameplay every evening. So check those out. Been doing a lot of key forge.
So much content. How do you do this?
Just
It's
take
insane.
away-
Like I'm so impressed.
It's a passion. It's a
Just
passion.
Oh yeah.
wow.
It's not really getting much attention now, but if I actually make a successful game, then my numbers will get run up, and then I'll get some monetization finally. But but yeah, check me out on YouTube and all major podcast platforms for your games.
There you go.
Awesome.
Excellent. And you can find me at Senfeng Lim on Twitter. Kat, where can people find you?
At Drarenk on all the things.
There you go. And you can find us both at Meeple Syrup on Twitter. Like
and
LaMarcus.
Instagram.
Oh, and Instagram. I keep
And
forgetting.
Facebook.
I'll write that down.
We exist on other things.
But is that the actual handle on Instagram? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'll put it there for Insta. There we go. Let's update that. Update that. There we go. And like LaMarcus said, you can follow him on YouTube at Foyo Games, where he does a lot of content, daily content, right? Which is wonderful.
I don't know for how long, but for right now, yeah.
For right now. And if you want to help keep the lights on, and David Killing is telling me on another chat that, hey, all your cameras are reversed. So I'll talk about that later. There is a way to reverse your camera, to mirror your camera, because I think mine is.
It's always complicated.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mine's reversed.
We'll have to figure that out.
I know how to do it. I just didn't.
Yeah. And I think it was only a
'Cause I
big
get
deal
confused.
when LaMarcus was showing cards. But
Yeah, I should have did the screen cap thing. Oh man.
it's okay. You didn't really do it in reverse anyway, so it's okay. It's all good. It's all good.
I just get confused when my camera's not mirrored because I don't know what's going on. Oh no.
Is that better? Is that better?
Sunlight.
I think so. I don't know.
Gee.
Cameras are technology, says Evan. I don't get it. There you go. All right. So yeah, if you want to follow us on Patreon, or not follow us, but support us on Patreon, help keep the lights on, that'd be wonderful.
Yes,
We'd love you forever. And LaMarcus, do you have any final advice for the listeners, the viewers out there?
I would say if you want to do something, do not give up. Keep going, because you'll look back 5-10 years later and you'll be like, oh man, I should have just kept going, and then look where I would be. Game design, whatever, just keep going. Even if you got to put it down for a little while, come back to it before too long. Keep going, because if you let that time pass, that time will be past. You could have been already there. But
yeah,
that's what I would
Very
say.
good point.
That's
All
excellent.
Right. So we're going to take a look at what is coming soon. So next week, May 31st, we have a host panel, and we're going to have somebody, Natalie Kirshner, coming from the tech side of things to talk about UX in game design. Unfortunately, I don't think Fortessa's going to be joining us, but it'll be me, Kat, and VJ Bell, who is also a graphic designer, coming in to talk about UX and game design, which is a very, very important thing. UX stands for user experience. And so we'll probably, because we have to, link it back to UI, which is user interface, which are terms basically from web design, but we're going to apply it to game design.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. VJ Bell, you're right, Evan. Yes. And what's happening after that?
So on June the 7th, we have the lovely Anna Maria Phelps coming to talk to us about starting a small publishing company, which is Violet Daisy, and what that experience is like, basically, and what advice she has to give us from her experience. And then after that, we have
Nicole Amato on June 17th. And she is going to run a masterclass on helping Kickstarter help you, which is brilliant when you think about it, right? So Nicole Amato is one of the outreach for board games who is employed by Kickstarter, and she wants to know how she can help you, small publishers, big publishers, do more with Kickstarter, do better with Kickstarter. But it's hard when you don't have direct contact, and so she would be that direct contact. How do you help Kickstarter help you? That's what this masterclass is going to be all about on June 14th. And then on June 21st, which is our second to last show for the season, who do we have coming, Kat?
So we have a group of wonderful people who've agreed to come and talk to us about gender inclusivity in game design. So we have V. Pendergrast, who is, now she's actually a business analyst like me, in terms of what her background is. And she mainly plays games, and she works in video games, based in New Zealand currently, was in Australia before. Then we have Cindy Robertson, who's also mainly a game player. And she is based in the Seattle area. And then we've got Zoe Ulrid, and it is a game designer who does all kinds of cool stuff and has a lot of really useful input on, amongst other things, Protospiel Online. And then finally, we have Toto Lin, and they know a lot about just games in general. And so we're really looking forward to hearing from all of these people and their angles on how we can be more inclusive of different genders.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Hey, this is a new layout. How'd that happen? There we go. So thanks very much for coming on the show, LaMarcus. It was a wonderful chat with you today. Great. Thank you for everybody in the chat who asked questions, who shared their insights, who shared their experiences with trading card games. These are the things that bind us together, right, nerds? Like, we all at some point may have played a trading card games, and we can bond over that. We can share our similarities no matter how different we are.
Thanks so much for having me. And one more little blurb.
Yeah, man.
One great thing about trading card games too is, like, on a Friday night, if you've got nothing to do, you can come out and hang with the weebs.
Yeah, that's right.
Playing some card, and not necessarily just all weebs, but even if you're socially inept or whatever, you got Friday night magic. That's a great thing.
Yeah, go to your
That's awesome.
friendly local game store.
There'll always be people. Yeah, exactly.
And there are people there. It's a wonderful. It can be a wonderful community, right? So hopefully, Kat will now go and learn magic. George, you should teach.
I mean, I understand now. Thank you so much, Marcus. That was a really helpful introduction. I feel like I understand the nuts and bolts, and also why people want to do this. So those are two really important things that I didn't really get beforehand, and I was hoping I would get. And so I've deliberately not been doing any background research so that I was like, okay, teach me. So that's been really cool. I really appreciate it.
It's a really important thing. I was just talking about this with somebody else, just not to carry this on much further, but that it's super important to understand audiences. So as somebody who's, like, I don't know, this is, I guess a professional in this industry, whatever. One of the things that I'll often say is, hey, you've actually got to understand your audience. When you're designing for somebody, you have to understand them. And I think hopefully that's what Kat got today, was a little bit of understanding of who are trading card game players and what do they want out of it and what are they looking for.
And what color do they play?
And what color do they play, right? And we'll have to have that conversation later between me and Evan and George about jiu-jitsu and the color wheel It's the magic color wheel is what it's called. All right, everybody, that's it for this week. Stay tuned next week when we come back with the host panel about UX. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye.